Happy Saturday, everyone. Happy weekend. And we are happy to be here today. This is our very first Marvel podcast. I know we've spoken about it a bit with our other Game of Thrones podcast. We discussed it on the Game of Thrones Citadel of Hype podcast that we do. And, we talked a little bit about on Patreon. But today we're going to be going full focused in on the main villain of the Marvel series, the big bad guy, the Mad Titan, Thanos. Gemma, what's going on?
Hi, yeah, I'm really excited to be here to talk about something other than Game of Thrones. Don't get me wrong, I love Game of Thrones, I do. But yeah, let's get into something a little bit different. I mean, Infinity War it's what, 4 weeks away now?
Not even 3 weeks. It's on the 28th.
The hype is very real. Hi to everybody in the chat. Happy Saturday to you. And let's get it. Let's do this. Thanos.
I know we're gonna probably have a little bit of a smaller crowd today because most of you watch my Game of Thrones videos, but feeling like me and Gemma were saying, we're feeling refreshed when we do something a little bit different. You can take a little bit of a break away from all the things that we've been talking about for so long. So, hey, everyone in the chat, we will get to some shout outs after once some more of you are here. Thanos, Gemma, a very interesting character. We're going to talk about his origins. We're going to talk about his motivations, his powers without the Infinity Gems. Of course, there's a big backstory in the comics. There's multiple storylines with Thanos, different iterations of the same story, different outcomes, different endings, different versions of Thanos. And then, of course, we got the Infinity Gauntlet, which is something that has been discussed very much in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In all of the movies, there is some sort of focus on one of these stones. There's 6 in total, and we're going to talk about those as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about the trailers and of course, what we think is going to happen in Avengers Infinity War and Avengers, maybe a little preview for Avengers 4. So shall we begin with the backstory of Thanos, Gemma?
I think we should. Yeah, let's because Thanos actually has an exceptionally interesting backstory that's not really, well, not at all been explored in the MCU to date. Like you said, there's so many different versions and narrations and interpretations from the comics, different universes almost. So we're kind of plucking elements from all over the place here, aren't we, to sort of create this bigger picture that could or could not be then used as inspiration for the cinematic universe. So yeah, origins. Do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, so on Saturn's moon of Titan lived a colony of Eternals, and these were basically the original Guardians of the Galaxy. There were these beings that they each had a unique power, and Thanos was born as one of the last sons of the original colonists, Mentor and Suisan. However, he was born a misshapen and monstrous in comparison to the other Eternals. We see his skin, he's purple, and he's very, very large, and particularly comparing him to his handsome brother Star Fox, who is, golden blonde of hair like a Jaime Lannister, a very handsome fellow. Thanos grew into this like melancholy, brooding individual, and he was consumed with the concept of death. So he's a nihilist. More than any of his people, Thanos sought out personal power. He sought out increased strength. He endowed himself with cybernetic implants and tried to become basically a living weapon. And he became more powerful than any one of his brothers. So the Eternals were pretty powerful, but Thanos became basically was born of 2 of them, and he became super, super powerful. At some point, he was exiled from his community, Gemma, and we don't have too much on the backstory of that, but some say it was because he committed a crime to create a weapon. Now, we don't know if that's Gamora or we don't know if that's Nebula. We do see in the Marvel Avengers Infinity War trailer that Thanos is taking Gamora by the hand when Gamora is younger. Gamora, and by the way, Thanos is about 6'7", 800 pounds. So Gamora, in comparison in size, is very, very small to him. But Thanos basically vivisected his own mother in an attempt to investigate how someone could be consumed with death, so be more familiar with death. And that's why they call him the Mad Titan. So he was born on the moon, Titan, and he killed his own mother, which is pretty crazy. So you want to continue with some of Thanos' backstory? Gemma, he's had a few nicknames. In your research, did you find anything that really stuck out about his origins to you?
Yeah, I think the most poignant moment of Thanos's backstory was literally the moment of his birth, and this comes round to why he killed his mother in the way he did. Um, the first thing his mother did when she saw the newborn Thanos in her arms was reach for a knife. She said she had to kill it. So and Thanos, when he's actually vivisecting his mother in an attempt to find out why he is different, why he's deformed in the way he is, he calls back and says he can remember that. He can remember that moment, and it stayed with him. The Eternals, they are a beautiful race. I mean, obviously his brothers, you know, like you said, golden haired Jamie Lannister type, but they're all absolutely beautiful. So Thanos did stick out like a sore thumb. He is one of the biggest Marvel villains ever created. Like you said, he's obsessed with three things: killing, death, and power. And it's because he looked so different from the other Eternals that he was deemed to be a deformity with his oversized body. And this feeling of not being accepted gave him a rather large chip on his shoulder. I mean, when he was a child, there was an incident. He actually did have some friends, classmates when he was younger, and they essentially went on a field trip, and they went into a cave, and his friends got eaten by some lizard creatures, and everybody else, the rumors started coming out from this, and basically he got blamed for that. So, you know, it's just every time he tried to find that acceptance, it was taken away from him. This is when he met a very special friend that nobody else could see, that started pulling him towards the dark side, but we'll get into that more later. But basically, this it does essentially stem from him wanting to be accepted. Maybe he just needs a hug, you know? But
Thanos just wants a hug. It is really interesting how we explore this within our own human consciousness as well. As we see, I don't want to compare it to some of the events that are going on right now, but we see some of these school shootings, and we see bullying. That's definitely something that affects someone because of the stress you endure and the mindset it creates for you to have to endure that. And he had to endure, you know, we're using Game of Thrones references, but something very similar to what Tyrion had to endure in his storyline.
Yeah, but Thanos, he personally affects so much of this universe. And this is what I love about this, like the family origins, is these connections. His father was called Mentor Alaz, and when Thanos, in one of the interpretations, in one of the narratives, Thanos attacked the Titan, the Saturn's moon Titan. Alaz asked his own father, who is in turn Thanos' grandfather, Kronos, for some help, and Kronos, by way of response, created Drax the Destroyer. Then we've also got, like you mentioned, Eros, who later became Star Fox, his brother. Other connections: Thanos is the ruler of the Chitauri, the alien race that invaded Earth in Avengers Assemble. So it's not like this is just a bunch of unrelated characters and plot points within this universe. So much of this can be traced back to Thanos in some way. There's a bizarre love triangle between Thanos, Mr. Death, and Deadpool.
Yeah, and Deadpool. Yes.
Which is just the most creepy, bizarre, strange love triangle. But through these multiple interpretations of the universe, almost every character has encountered Thanos or been affected by him in some way. And this is the thing. This is not just some big bad that's just turned up. You know, there are connections here that go way back.
A long history. And I think I'm really excited because the Marvel Avengers Infinity War trailer does seem to go that route. Like we're gonna get some backstory on Thanos. I think if they are gonna make him, you know, this third act villain for Phase 3, you know, he's the penultimate guy. He, you know, I mean, this is the thing that they're going to have to do, and I think it's going to be over 2 movies, and that's what a lot of people don't realize is that he is literally a Darth Vader type of figure. He's going to do some winning. It's not just going to be the Avengers win this time. It's going to be a little bit more difficult than that.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm in agreement. Do you
Now,
want to give
Jim,
a shout out to a few people in the chat before we move on?
you just read my mind. I was just going to say that. So we got AU Pack Meal. Super excited to see you at Con of Thrones, buddy. Yeah, I know I said penultimate, George, because there's going to be a bigger villain after that. I know. I know Thanos is the main one, but I did say that for a reason, bud. Nice to see you, George, Katrin, Misty, Chrissy of Old Stone. We got Herb Coswell, Ray Johnson. We got Cindy, Carol Brown, Feel Better, Milady, Michael Palmer, Cindy, G's name taken, Michael Smith all the way in Australia. What's going on, my friend? Nicola is also in Croatia, Tina Sarah, Sunny McLeod, and there's a few more of you, I think. Jimmy Page. Oh, Jimmy Page is in the chat. Awesome.
How exciting. Oh, if you could just bring his guitar along, that would really make my day.
We got George R. R. Martin and Jimmy Page in the chat. Just kidding,
Excellent.
not George R. R. Martin. This is George Sartiano. But let's continue with this motivations, Gemma, because we spoke about how Thanos was growing in power, and he had this infamous reputation as he was traveling the universe. And Thanos once met Lady Death herself, and she embodied herself in a female form. However, we talk about this a little bit in Game of Thrones, how death is gender neutral. But in this particular case, Thanos became infatuated with the being of death, and death being a celestial, this super powerful being. And basically what he wanted to do is prove himself and make himself worthy in her eyes. So, we hear him say, I want to bathe the starways in your blood. Like that, this kind of narrative with this character, he's really infatuated with destroying the universe. He literally wants to destroy half of the universe to make an example for her. So, he obviously, you talked about a little bit about the Chitauri. He had a big army under his command, and he nearly destroyed his former home, Titan, declaring himself its ruler. He then sought out, obviously, what we're seeing now, the powerful Cosmic Cube, the Tesseract, and a number of other people tried to stop him. So that's he's looking for a fight, Gemma.
Yeah, to put it simply, yeah. Definitely Thanos' motivations in the MCU have so far been very unexplored. Now, the MCU gets a lot of stick for its weak baddies, its weak villains, these heavy CGI, I just want power for the sake of power, and I don't really have a backstory or motivation kind of villains. I mean, the Red Skull from Captain America, the first Avenger, Malekith from the Dark World in particular. I think they are starting to up their game. Of course, Loki doesn't fall into this category. Vulture from Homecoming was an excellent baddie. Black Panther's Killmonger, he was amazing. So they are definitely upping their game more recently. But I don't think they're going to make this mistake with Thanos either. I think he's going to be, and we've said this, haven't we, the major villain for the next 2 Avenger movies. So there's going to be time here to fully explore what his major malfunction is, isn't there?
And when you're saying time, we got some theories about that after as well.
We do.
I think the next point that we should make, obviously there's going to be a big difference from the comics and the movies, but Marvel has this amazing rich history which they can pull from. And by the way, George in the chat today, he actually posted a picture of, he got to meet Stan Lee yesterday. He took a picture with Stan Lee, believe it or not. Pretty awesome. But I think it's important, Gemma, that we point out the possibility. For those of you who saw Thor Ragnarok, Hela, and we talked about this in our Game of Thrones podcast as well, the goddess of death, Hel, is she going to be reappearing? Because we know are they going to do a literal like Grim Reaper type of character as the embodiment of death? Because I think they're going to have to show this.
I think so. I think it could go 2 ways. I think we've got, on the one side, we've got the outcast complex thing that we spoke about in his backstory. But that's weak on its own. That's really weak. I mean, to just say, oh, I was, they were mean to me when I was a kid, and so I've turned into this. It just seems a bit extreme. So there's 2 possibilities. There's one, which is the one you're talking about, which is my favorite, the Hela theory, and I'll get to that. But the other possibility is that he feels like the universe is becoming overpopulated. And because this is one of the contributing factors that led to the destruction of his home planet Titan. And this is also something that he vowed he wouldn't let happen again. This is in one of the versions. In the other version, it was he that destroyed Titan. So like you said, there's this rich history, and it really depends on which elements of inspiration they're going to take. But for me, and you've said this as well, Kyle, this is what I want to see. And I want to see the return of Hela. Because, like you said, in the comics, Thanos has got this very creepy and unhealthy obsession with Death, who takes on this female form. She's known as Mistress Death or Lady Death. And Thanos is basically madly in love with her. He's known her since they were children. And before she sort of revealed herself to him as Death. He'll do anything to impress her, and this includes wiping out most forms of life across the universe. Initially, she asked him to go and kill all of his own children that he'd sired, and he did that without hesitation, but it still wasn't enough for her. Now, Hela, that we know from Thor Ragnarok, and Mistress Death, they're not the same character in the comics, but there is a storyline when Hela and Thanos did embark upon a relationship. And Hela and Mistress Death's characters are, of course, very similar. So it would make sense, wouldn't it, to reuse Hela, who does have a question mark hanging over her fate since the conclusion of Thor Ragnarok, than the other option, which would be to introduce an entirely new character. I'm with you. I'd like to be Hela to be Thanos' ultimate motivation.
Now, someone brought up something interesting in the chat. I got to scroll up here to see exactly who said this. Someone was talking about the Soul Stone. Sorry, I mentioned the Soul Stone, but somebody said that, I think it was Misty, if I'm not mistaken. I apologize if I got that wrong. But some people are saying that, Killmonger and these other villains and Quicksilver are going to be making an appearance in Marvel's Avengers Infinity War. So this is an interesting thing. And I think for that to happen, that would mean that we would have, obviously, the Soul Stone has to be revealed in this movie. This is the one that we haven't seen yet. And I think that, if we are going towards the conclusion that both you and I think it's going to happen in the movie where Thanos snaps his fingers and destroys half the universe, then only one or two characters is going to survive and have to go back in time or go to some alternate dimension or use the Soul Stone if that's the only stone that he doesn't get to change the course of history, essentially. Now, there's a pretty interesting picture in the Marvel's Avengers Infinity War trailer that shows Ant-Man right where the Soul Gem would be placed. There's some pretty interesting theories about that. And of course, me and you have debated. We debated yesterday. I said I think it's Iron Man because of some of the clues that they've left in the movies. I think the Soul Stone has something to do with Iron Man. So I think Iron Man's going to survive and then he'll be retired after Avengers 4. But you think it's Wakanda. So everyone in chat.
No, I don't. I've changed my mind.
Oh my God. Is it Nebula now? Like, what is it now, Gemma?
No, we'll get to that later. We're going to save that one.
You're saving it for later. I want to get to it now. But like we said, everyone.
A couple of people have said, with they're talking casting news in the chat there as regards Cate Blanchett, which would potentially indicate that she won't be part of it. But while they were filming additional scenes or the later scenes for Ragnarok, they actually went to one of the locations that is being used in Infinity War. Now, it would have been very easy for them to film a few scenes that we didn't get in Ragnarok because they were actually always intended for Infinity War. We don't know, They're very good at keeping these things under wraps, aren't they? Just a possibility.
Also, I was reading up about Adam Warlock last night, Herb, and he is super important when it comes to this Soul Stone storyline. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. George also has a great point in chat. He says they're all going to Wakanda. It seems like we hear Tony in the trailer say, we got the stones, let them bring it to us. So they're gonna. It looks like that Thanos is going to bring the fight to them in Wakanda. We know Wakanda is, kind of like the Asgard of Earth. It's the most advanced civilization, seemingly, as far as technology and infrastructure goes. So
I've got so much to say about all of the above. So let's plow on.
Okay, so his motivations really interesting. We're gonna talk a little bit about more about Thanos' motivations after, but the Soul Gem is going to be really, really important. And I think that Thanos is going to end up destroying half the universe, but to do that, he's going to have to get the gems. So that's going to be a really interesting thing. But let's talk a little bit about Thanos' powers before we get to the Infinity Gauntlet, Gemma. So Thanos does possess superhuman physiology of all the Eternals because he was born of two Eternals, granting him superhuman strength, endurance, reflexes, and agility. So he's a big guy like Hulk, but he's like faster than Hulk. He's very, very strong. His skin is nearly invulnerable. We see his skin is that odd shaped color. And he's got like an invulnerability towards heat, cold, electricity, radiation, toxins, aging, disease, and this makes it more difficult for. This makes him more in control and confident in his body. So it makes him harder to be mind controlled. So, is there anything really interesting that you found about Thanos' powers without the gems, Gemma? Because we know when he gets the gems, he becomes this this godlike being. But for now, let's say he's a demigod.
Yeah, I found loads. I'm just laughing at the hashtag plow on that's now going on in the comments section.
You know what's really funny, guys? Everybody in chat, I'm going to cut off Gemma here for a second. I find myself saying certain sayings that Gemma would say UK style sometimes, and I'd be like, where did I hear that? And then I'm like, Gemma, your language is seeping into my vocabulary. And then
it's hilarious, these things that I just take for granted, and everyone, and it just tickles everybody. And I'm like, why? Oh, okay, is that not a thing? In my naivete, I just assumed.
Wow.
Can I just quickly? Yeah, crikey. I said crikey several times yesterday, AU. I did. Good grief. Goodness me is another one. But before I move on, can I just...
I'm dying over here. Oh.
Can I just go off on Adam Warlock? Can I just have like 3 minutes to just...
go ahead, everybody. Adam Warlock, Gemma.
Can I go? Okay. Right. Adam Warlock. I mean, O to the M to the F to the G, right? Adam Warlock is such an amazing, he is an awesome character. And for a long time, I was convinced that the MCU wasn't going to do Adam Warlock because they seem to have taken elements of his story and given them to Vision, haven't they? Adam Warlock has the Soul Stone literally embedded in his forehead. And of course, Vision has the Mind Stone in the same way. But then, boom, the after credits scene of Guardians 2 teased the emergence of Adam Warlock, and I literally screamed.
James Gunn from Guardians of the Galaxy teased that for Guardians 3, right? Because we're getting Aisha as the villain. Aisha is the villain in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Yeah.
So Adam Warlock, for those of you that don't know, you need to get hyped about Adam Warlock because his powers he's like Superman, essentially. He was created to serve as like an ultimate being. And the Soul Gem, which is green in this instance, not orange, as we assume but in the MCU, it looks like the Soul Stone is going to be orange instead. How do I summarize Adam Warlock's? Okay, so he basically discovers like a time-traveling version of himself from the future and realizes that the Soul Gem is basically going to drive him insane. So he goes on this mission to prevent this from happening. So in his showdown with Thanos, Warlock doesn't actually die. He gets trapped inside the Soul Gem, which is a world like heaven, I suppose. It's called the Soul World. And then at one point, he gets temporarily released from the Soul World. And then he's able to defeat Thanos by turning him into stone.
Spider-Man does that, correct?
No. Warlock, Adam Warlock does that.
Spider-Man releases Doctor Strange from the Time Gem. Sorry, my bad.
I think they're going to take elements of this story. I mean, we've seen elements of this story, but I think this is where Captain Marvel's going to come in, but we'll get to that later. Yeah, so that was essentially a very highly abridged version of Adam Warlock. But we know that he is going to be part of the MCU. I'm very excited for his potential role in taking Thanos down, but I don't think it's going to happen in Infinity War. It doesn't look like we're going to see Warlock in the first Infinity War.
He's going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. George is saying in chat, he was originally created by a bunch of scientists on Earth, and they called him H-I-M. That was his original name in the comics.
I'm going to get back to that later when we're talking about Thanos, when we talk about the H.
H. I love how you say that. That's one of my favorite things.
So anyway, powers, right? You wanted to know about Thanos' powers, and this is without the Infinity Gauntlet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let me lay this out for you. You want specifics, right?
We talked about his skin already, and super strength and superhuman agility.
Okay, so
about that.
Specific examples. So the Silver Surfer, we know the Silver Surfer. Most of us are familiar with the Silver Surfer. He has energy blast power, and these energy blasts have enough power to destroy entire planets. And these had no effect on Thanos. He's survived attacks from Galacticus, the destroyer of worlds, which is super hardcore. He's been sucked into a black hole and survived. He's punched the Hulk through an entire village. He's knocked out Ronan the Accuser cold and the Silver Surfer, One Punch Man style. What else? He once fought two Thors at the same time, not one Thor, just two Thors. And in one narrative, Thor actually wielded the power gem at one point, and he still couldn't match Thanos. He's survived a one-on-one with Odin, which is insane. Which is
crazy because Odin has like old man powers, man.
Yes, old man powers, and you don't mess with old man powers, you know. But he's not all muscle, like you said. He's super, super intelligent. He's tactical and analytical. He has created and hacked alien tech. He was able to enter the consciousness of the Hulk and control him. And the Hulk is apparently known for like having this high level of psychic resistance because he's always angry or something like that.
He warged it to the Hulk. Skin changed it to him.
Essentially, yeah. Thanos would say that Bruce Banner is smart, but only by human standards, you know?
Yeah.
He's got energy manipulation. He's created shields and cages made of pure force. He can manipulate atoms and shoot powerful shockwaves. He's very fast, not Quicksilver fast, but he can teleport. So not in the way Nightcrawler does. He doesn't need to see where he's going, but this is all reliant on his chair. So if the Avengers were able to manage
like he can create like a wormhole, like we see him in the trailer, open that wormhole, he can like come to Earth, like travel very far distances in space is what Gemma essentially means.
Yeah, so if the Avengers were able to manage to get him off his chair, then I suppose he'd just have to settle for being able to fly, because yeah, he can also fly. He's got the Black Order, at least some of them.
Yes, I'm really excited about that too, because we get a preview. We got two different trailers. We got the one preview where Cap is obviously able to hold the spear and catch the spear, and then we obviously have another member of the Black Order who's dealing with Doctor Strange and dealing with fear and manipulating his fear.
Ebony Maw.
Yes.
I actually think the character of Ebony Maw, and I'm sure a few of you have noticed this in the credits, the actor, the role, Peter Dinklage is in there, and I think Peter Dinklage is going to do the voice for Ebony Maw. I can totally imagine that.
Oh, that's actually a really great theory. But some people think he's going to be Pip the Troll.
But what an amazing Ebony Maw would Dinklage make? I mean, I can just...
He can play a bunch of different characters, right?
He could, absolutely. I mean, the Black Order, Proxima Midnight with her spear, her lance, toxic light beams and all that. Corvus Glaive, who's badass. He likes to stomp on people. We see him in the trailer
Yeah,
stomping on.
he's fighting in the main one against like Bucky and Falcon and all them in that big crowd.
And he's using his glaive, isn't he? On Vision in the trailer, we see that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did I mention that Thanos is immortal as well?
Yeah,
Because
that's the interesting thing too. Because remember that time, like when he did get turned into stone, he was basically denied death, that sweet death, like that loving embrace of death. So that's the interesting thing too, because he was essentially trapped, and that's like the last thing he wanted. Like no power, trapped, couldn't do nothing.
I mean, and he's got like healing and regenerative powers in a very similar way to Wolverine and Deadpool, because like why not at this point, right?
He's basically got all the best powers of all the best superheroes, essentially.
Yes. Yeah, all in one neat little package, and this is all without the Infinity Gauntlet full of gems, which would quite literally make him omnipotent.
He's basically an intelligent Hulk in body form with all of the best powers. Think of it that way. He's like invulnerable, basically.
Which is really unfair, isn't it? Shall we move into the gems?
Yeah, this is my favorite part. Oh, yeah. We got a ton to talk about here. I'm so excited. All right. So, Gemma, let's talk about all the gems. Let's talk about the first one that we see, the space gem, the Tesseract. So we first see this Infinity Stone. This is the first Infinity Stone to appear in the Marvel movies, and it was a glowing blue cube that we saw, and it's about twice the size of a softball, and it was introduced when Red Skull went to go find it. And the Nazi agenda was being pushed in the World Wars in the Marvel comics. Now we obviously saw this in Captain America, the first Avenger, and this is stolen by Loki later on, and we see this in the Avengers. So we see the Tesseract, and the Tesseract has a really unique thing that it can do. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Gemma?
Yeah, just laughing at Carol Brown. So what you're saying is Thanos is I haven't had my morning coffee and you need to go away, Grumpy. Yeah, Thanos is literally like, it's like actual footage of me in the morning before I've had my coffee. Yeah. Some of the comments in these chats, I love reading these comments. Thank you so much for always joining us, guys, and getting involved. But the Tesseract, yeah, the last time we saw the Tesseract was, of course, in Thor Ragnarok, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And that moment, that it was a split second where Loki just, his eyes just go, he continues walking a few steps, but his eyes linger, don't they? And we know he's got that. We've seen it in the trailer, haven't we? He's handing it over. But I do think it's safe to say that Hydra really underestimated the power of the Tesseract. That's putting it mildly. Red Skull gets thrown up into what appears to be like some kind of portal in space. And this is what we were saying earlier on, weren't we, about the potential comeback? Because we didn't technically see Red Skull die when he touched the Tesseract. He just kind of went into space almost. So we might see a lot, him and other villains from the previous movies coming back. The Space Stone, what can it do? It can teleport you through space. And this is also the stone that would give Thanos this omnipresence that everybody keeps talking about. When the Chitauri attacked Earth in Avengers Assemble, Loki was obviously the big bad in that movie. But the Chitauri actually worked for Thanos. So it seems that even at this point, Thanos was already trying to gather up the gems. He already had a gem, the Mind Stone, which he gave to Loki, put in a scepter to give him a helping hand in this quest to retrieve the Space Stone. That didn't pan out, but that does lead us onto the Mind Stone, doesn't it, Kyle?
It does, and apparently Carol thinks it's warranting of a $50 donation to keep on talking about this. Getting our Thanos on, and Gemma, I think she wants you to say it again.
So what am I saying?
Hashtag what, Gemma?
Old man powers party plow on.
Say it again, Gemma. Say it again.
Plow on.
No, that's not with enough ferocity. Everyone,
Let's
thanks.
plow on into the Mind Stone, Kyle.
So yeah, the Tesseract, we see Thanos open a portal. He can do that himself, but him getting that Tesseract is a big problem because he can go anywhere in the universe and essentially kill everyone. The Mind Stone first appeared secretly in the Avengers, originally hidden in the tip of Loki's mind control scepter. It's one of the most well-traveled stones, and the scepter was a gift from Thanos, who had, like Gemma said, financed the Chitauri army to go take over Earth. And then Thanos was going to swoop in, and he's like, hey, you guys can do all the work for me. I'll come in and clean everything up. Of course, we see this later on in Avengers Age of Ultron. Ultron is trying to basically achieve his perfect form, and it goes into Vision. And Tony and Thor, in especially in the movies, is the one that he sees it in a vision and sees that Vision is worthy, that he's going to help them. And then obviously Vision actually he's tossing around Mjolnir like it's nothing. You know what I mean? He's like lifting it up, and we can see that he has the Mind Stone within him. So let's talk a little bit about that, Gemma. We know Vision is going to be in the movie. We see him, he's potentially going to lose his stone. We see him becoming more, we see a human form of Vision. He's like that illusion part when he's with Scarlet Witch. So that's going to be really interesting. I think that even though he is this different entity, we're going to see him humanized more in Avengers Infinity War. And this is something that we don't want Thanos to get a hold of, right?
Yeah, because I mean, obviously the implications are for Vision himself. I mean, we know, don't we? At some point that stone's no longer going to be in Vision's head. And I think this is what a lot of people are saying. The Soul Stone is in Wakanda, but actually, because obviously we've seen this, there's going to be a big smackdown in Wakanda. But I don't think that's necessarily to obtain the Soul Stone. I think there's a very good chance that that might be to obtain the Mind Stone, because I think we've seen Cap and a few of the others going to Wakanda with Hulk, and they're taking Vision with them. And I think they're taking Vision to Wakanda to keep him as safe as possible, because they know his card is marked, because he literally has one of the Infinity Stones embedded into his head. So this is what makes me believe that the Soul Stone is not what's in Wakanda. It will be the Mind Stone, and that's what they will be going for when they attack Wakanda.
Wait, whoa! See, you're changing your tune on the Soul. I've been fighting with you for days about the goddamn Soul Stone, Gemma, privately, and then on live on air, you go in a complete. Oh my God, get out of here!
It's a woman's prerogative to change my mind. Actually, and the Russo brothers as well have literally completely debunked it anyway. They've literally come out and said that the Soul Stone is not in Wakanda. They've word for word have said that. So they pretty much smacked that one down. So that made me think I'm going to have to look at other options here. And I've got a few ideas, but shall we plow on into the Reality Stone?
Oh my God, yes. So we see the Reality Stone. This is the one that's featured prominently in Thor: The Dark World, where we have Malekith, and it's known as the Aether, the red like floaty type of essence that we see Jane Foster interact with, and it's within her, and then it gets extracted, and then Frigga gets killed in the movie, and then obviously Malekith is trying to when the conversion of the 9 realms is happening, he's trying to essentially make the universe go back to its dark period, because there's a beginning, middle, and end of the universe. As far as we know, the Collector still holds this one, Gemma, though it was pretty badly trashed in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, there's a bit of a question mark over this one. I mean, we assume the Collector still has it. I think when they were talking to the producer, they one of the cons, they asked him this question. There was a big explosion. Is the Reality Stone still with the Collector? And the answer to the question was, well, maybe he had another collection somewhere else. So, that wasn't particularly helpful. I really quite actually enjoyed the fact that the ether wasn't even in stone or gem form as we saw it in the Dark World. And that was rather fun. I quite like that. And I'm going to assume that at some point it's got to return to its gem form, because it's not really going to fit in that Michael Jackson glove very nicely otherwise. I'd love to see Thanos moonwalk.
Why do you do this to me? Why?
But
this is a really that's a really sexy glove, Gemma.
It's a sexy glove. It's a very sexy glove.
Hashtag sexy glove in the chat.
Hashtag Gemma said it, apparently. I think it's me ploughing on, isn't it? Hashtag sexy glove. So, yeah, the powers of the ether. Okay, this one's really vague. It's said to have the power to transform worlds, whatever that means. In the comics, it can pretty much do anything. But this hasn't been fully explored in the movies at all.
This one is called the reality gem, which is interesting, right? To yes. literally change the fabric of the universe.
Well, that's the implication, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, and the ether is something that is discussed as, you know, we got all the elements, fire, water, earth, all of those things, and then the ether is that other the permeation of the energy that's within everything. But when it's used by someone who has these negative intentions, obviously it's going to take on a different kind of form.
Yes.
Let's plow on with that one. The Power Stone. This one was one of the more featured ones because we got to see the Collector actually give like a PowerPoint appearance, essentially. It was in Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was recovered in an ancient rune by Mr. Peter Quill, and then it was given to or we see it with the Collector, obviously, and then Ronan the Accuser gets it, who might be revived in the next movie. George says that Ronan the Accuser is confirmed for the next movie, which is really interesting. But obviously, he opposed Thanos, and then we saw kind of the narrative of what happened with the Eternals. Like, you know, these Eternal beings joined hands to basically confine the powers of the Power Stone. And obviously, we see that reflected within the Guardians of the Galaxy: Drax, Rocket Raccoon, Gamora, not Groot, and Star-Lord. So this one is really interesting because this one grants the power to be able to destroy stuff. And we know this is with the Xandar Nova Corps, as far as we know.
Yeah, that was the last time we saw it, wasn't it? The purple one. The Power Stone unleashes, like you said, insane power on worlds. But it also essentially
I can't hear Gemma. Can anybody hear me? Sound, Gemma? Oh, we lost Gemma. Okay, so it's only Kyle here.
Am I back?
You're back, Gemma. Okay, I thought it was me that might have been lost because I live in the lands of always winter and it's been snow.
No, apologies. Where was I? Did you hear the bit about the battery?
No, we didn't hear that. Go back.
Right. Okay. The Power Stone, and we saw a lot of this in the Guardians Volume 1, like you said, with that lovely Collector PowerPoint that we got. It's like a battery because in the context of the Gauntlet, the Power Stone magnifies the power of all the other Infinity Gems. And then we've had these theories about Peter Quill that because it can only be, they say it can only be wielded by a person of great power, and a lot of people have said that Peter Star-Lord was able to touch it because he's half celestial. Now, Ego isn't a celestial in the comics, but they've obviously made him celestial in the MCU. It was basically like an executioner's weapon of the Celestials from the distant past. And the Collector explains all of this in Guardians Volume 1, doesn't he? So I'm not really going over anything new there. But I think it's safe to say that the Nova Corps and possibly all of Xandar is going to be the first pit stop that Thanos makes in Infinity War.
I think it's actually going to be the very first scene in the movie.
Yeah, I agree. Or it will pick off directly where Thor Ragnarok leaves off, and we'll get some kind of flashback because Thanos will already have the Power Stone, because we've seen it in his gauntlet in the trailer. The Power Stone is the first stone that's in the gauntlet, at least in the trailer. But we do have to remember
then it's the Tesseract, because Loki gives him the Tesseract.
That's right, yes. So, and this is a big but, this is just a bit of food for thought on what we're seeing in the trailers, because in the trailer we see the Space Stone and the Power Stone in the gauntlet. The Power Stone's already there, and we see the Space Stone from the Tesseract just being sucked in to the gauntlet. We also see Doctor Strange using the Time Stone at one point in the trailer. We see, of course, the Mind Stone in Vision's head. The only two that we don't see in the trailers are the Reality Stone, of course, and the Soul Stone. But I'm not ruling out the possibility that when we see that first shot of him holding up the gauntlet and it's only got 2 stones in it in the trailer, that they could have CGI'd some of the stones out of the gauntlet for the purposes of the trailer, as to not make it too spoilery. They've done stuff like this before, so I don't think we should perhaps read too much into what we can or cannot see in the trailer. We know they've done this before. And Wesley Mons, we will be moving on to some.
We're getting to that. Yeah, we both got awesome predictions for that one. We're both most excited to talk about the Soul Stone. Trust me.
Yeah, but for now, it's the Time Stone, isn't it?
Time Stone. Yeah, this is my second favorite one. The Time Stone obviously gets featured in Doctor Strange, in which he uses the Eye of Agamotto to power and control time. He defeated the demon Dormammu. We see him, continually going back in time, and Dormammu eventually gets impatient and says, "Hey, you know what? I'll make a deal with you." But yeah, Earth's first sorcerer Agamotto had bound the Time Stone into a pendant. It's not always been like that it was not always a necklace. Of course, for the MCU, it's a necklace, but for this purposes, it is this. And at the end of the Doctor Strange movie, we see he returns it to Kamartaj in Nepal. So it's likely going to remain there. In the trailer, we do see, the kind of flippy upside down part of the second Avengers Infinity War trailer. We see the window into where Doctor Strange has his little place where he reads and learns about all of the different parts of the universe and Kamartaj and all of that. So we're assuming that Thanos has to get the Time Stone, because me and you both have the prediction that he is going to snap his fingers and kill half the universe.
Yeah, and in order for him to do that, obviously he needs them all, doesn't he? And everybody's getting quite excited in the chat about the Soul Stone. We are moving on to that, but the Time Stone, it's quite straightforward in its concept, although wrapping your mind around what it actually does is another story. You can use it to go backward and forwards in time. You can peer into events of the past and the future. You can slow or speed up time, and that includes aging or reversing the age of people, that kind of thing. And we saw all of that in Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange wielding the Time Stone gives him immense powers and possibilities. And I think it's perhaps making Doctor Strange at this point a little too OP, which makes me worry about, like you said, him not being able to wield it perhaps in the way that we wish he could.
I think, for the case of this, we're going to make our predictions after Doctor Strange is maybe one of the 2 or 3 people that might survive this movie. But because of the element of if Thanos does get his hands on most of the gems, there's going to be some sort of loophole where they have to reverse it. And I think that's where they're going with the storyline, because Gamora has literally talked about him doing this. So I think, in the case of when they do point out this kind of foreshadowing, it's going to be really interesting to see where they go with Doctor Strange, because
it is, yeah. He's a bit of a wild card at the moment, isn't he?
People are debating in the chat he's not even Sorcerer Supreme. You guys are hilarious today, but
so moving on to the Soul Stone.
Jeez. So we both
This is
tell.
the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the big question. Now, in the comics, the Soul Stone is green.
Yes. And
In
it's
in
also stuck in Adam Warlock's head.
Yes. Now, in the MCU, they did a little promo on Twitter where they had all six of the stones, and there was multiple characters that were in the stone, obviously, in each one of these pictures. But the person that was centrally in the promo shot was Iron Man, and the Soul Stone is orange. So there's some pretty interesting theories out there. Me and Gemma have got a chance to watch some theory videos. I've read up on some of these theories. I have my own theories. I've actually rewatched every single Marvel movie over the past week, believe it or not. Been binging. And I personally think it has something to do with Iron Man because he was the reboot in the Marvel franchise, and he's been the leader of everything so far. And what Tony's father said, you were always my greatest creation. And obviously, when Tony has that vision of everyone dying during the first Avengers, when Thanos is sending the Chitauri in that portal, I think it has something to do with Tony, and I think it's a possibility that's actually within Tony Stark or has something to do with Tony Stark. So I'm not sure what it is. I'm kind of confused on what it's going to be, but there's some great other theories like Wakanda, Nebula, Adam Warlock, but I think it's actually within someone, kind of like with Vision. So what do you think, Gemma?
I don't think it's in Tony Stark. But I'll explain why. I'm just going to shut you down. I do have my reasons. Yeah, we haven't seen the Soul Stone at all, have we? And this is the big question. We haven't seen it in the MCU, with the exception of the PowerPoint, the Collector's hologram in Guardians 1. And that has shown us that it's going to be orange. And it's only really by process of elimination that we're attributing the orange one to the Soul Gem, isn't it? And now everyone was convinced it would show up in Guardians 2. And then it didn't. And then everyone was convinced it would show up in Thor Ragnarok. And it didn't. And then everybody was convinced that it must show up in Black Panther. And it didn't. Although, weirdly, no one thought it would show up in Spider-Man Homecoming. And they were right about that as well.
So you're going with the Thanos theory then?
No, I hate that.
You're not going with Heimdall then? Wow, I thought you were. So you changed your tune again? Oh my god.
No. Listen. I'm not done. I hate the Thanos theory for one reason. And does everybody know the Thanos theory? Should I briefly explain?
Yeah, briefly explain it. The Thanos.
Yeah. Okay, let's. Oh, heck. Let's.
So Tesseract stands for T. H we don't have an answer for. A stands for what, Gemma? Aether. N stands for I forget.
Necklace for the Time Stone. O for the Orb of the Power Stone, and S for the Scepter and the Mind Stone.
Yep.
Which would then leave H for the Soul Stone, right?
Iron Man. Iron Man.
But my problem with this is the eye of Agamotto, the Time Stone. It's a pendant, right? And it's literally never been referred to as a necklace, ever.
Yeah.
Like not even one time. It has never been referred to as a necklace. It's a pendant. It's an eye. It's grasping at straws, but I kind of like the H thing because out of my 3 favorite theories, all of them begin with H. So maybe
George brought it up in chat.
Yes, I've got Heimdall,
Art,
Hela, and him. Those are my 3 favorite theories for where the Time Stone is. I mean, you could explain the Heimdall one if you want. The Soul Stone, I mean.
Tony Stark underwent heart surgery after his 3rd movie. Oh, it's a really interesting one. George brought up an amazing point in chat. Some people think it's Herb thinks it's Captain America.
Yes, I've seen that one as well.
And I think in our hearts we most closely associate with either Tony Iron Man or Steve Rogers Captain America. Like I don't know. I more closely associate with Captain America because of how much he cares for the small folk, you know, the free folk. But
Okay. Can I explain why I don't think it's Iron Man? Because the reason why I don't think it's Iron Man is because the premise of this theory is based on what you were saying, the merchandise. The Iron Man is on this picture with the Soul Stone, the merchandise for the movie. And I really honestly think that he's been slapped on the Soul Stone merch because they just needed someone to stick him the orange poster. Because I've seen concept art, loads of concept art for Infinity Wars with all the 6 colors, and Tony Stark has been in the green band in some of them, he's been in the red band in some of them, and he's been in the orange band in some of them. So I genuinely think that, you know, some of the characters lend themselves to the stones more eagerly. Like, obviously, the yellow stone's going to have Vision on it. The blue stone, it was first introduced in Captain America, so that makes more sense. The green one, you know, you're going to get Doc Strange on that one, of course. And I think they were like, oh, who do we stick on the Soul Stone? Oh, Tony Stark is a big character. We need him prominent. And he's not really connected to any of the stones that we've seen, is he?
But some people are saying there's a bright orange light on the chamber that Adam Warlock would be created by Aisha in Guardian in the end of
I like him. Yeah, I like Adam Warlock. But it doesn't look like he's going to be in Infinity War at all. That's I like that theory, but then, you know, I look at that and go, oh, no, that's a bummer. Guardians 3, we'll see him. We might see him in Avengers 4. Maybe Thanos will get all 5 of the stones, and then the next Avengers 4 film will be this race to get this final stone, maybe. And that's where Adam Warlock comes in, perhaps.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, you know, in the comics, they say that he has to get all the stones to destroy half the universe. Are they going to change that to him getting the 5 stones, and then they have to get the Soul Stone to reverse everything? Because the Soul Stone's powers revive the dead, all of that, right? We didn't really talk about the Soul Stone's powers, what it can do. So
yeah, and I think this for me is where Captain Marvel comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're looking at the soul world that I mentioned before, that Adam got trapped inside, there is a theory that I've seen that Captain Marvel is actually currently trapped inside the Soul Stone, because her film is going to be set in the 90s.
Correct. And we're getting the Carol Danvers origins, right?
Yes, which begs the question, where's she been at all this time? Since and this is maybe why they've ordered the films the way they have, because if Captain Marvel ends with her being trapped inside a Soul Stone, then they couldn't show that before Infinity War because it would have been a humongous spoiler, and then this would lead straight into Avengers 4 in this race for the Soul Stone. This is I'm completely speculating now. I'm kind of thinking out loud. Yeah, race for the Avengers 4, race for the Soul Stone. Calling it right now, Herb. I love you. I'm going with that. Yes.
They said it's going to be a more ominous title. The Russo brothers. They said it's going to be a scary title. So I don't. Some people. I don't think Infinity Gauntlet's a very scary title though. So I'm really interested to see what they say. What's going to be the title of the 4th Avengers movie?
What about Heimdall though? Because that's I quite like that theory. Do you want to outline that one for everybody?
Yeah. So we see Heimdall, and he's able to see the souls of, you know, Jane. We see specifically listed out with Jane Foster. But the thing is if you look on his armor at the top of the tree of Yggdrasil, there is actually it looks like where a gem could be. So you want to point that out, Gemma? Like, could it be within Heimdall because he can view the souls of everyone? You know,
I mean, they really haven't explained how he can do this, have they? And obviously his eyes have got like this orangey glow to them, that he is very much connected with the concept of being able to see all the souls in existence, and And so there's quite a clear and obvious connection here. There was also the vision that Thor saw of the future, and Heimdall had warg eyes, didn't he? He had the white eyes, and it was like something had been taken from him and removed his sight of seeing souls. So it matches up, that could be quite plausible. I think if it's in anybody.
But we also saw that, everybody having their fears amplified by Scarlet Witch, which is really interesting.
But then a lot of people are going with the Captain America theory, because Cap was the only one, aside from Vision, obviously, and Hela, Cap was the only one that was able to move Mjolnir, wasn't he? Just that millimeter when he lifted it up. And
Vision was able to lift it because he has an Infinity Stone.
Yeah, exactly. Those were different circumstances. But for Cap to be able to even move it, people are suggesting that it's because he's got the purest soul. Something like that, there's the discussion of this soul stone, and
for Captain America too, like Howard Stark created him with, obviously the Stark technology and the Ray technology, and he was enhanced, so and he was like just a fighter, you know what I mean? Davos says, "I'm not a very good fighter." But Steve Rogers was 100 pounds soaking wet. Like he couldn't even enlist in the army because he had asthma.
I know, bless him. I literally watched that one last night. It's one of my favorite ones, the first Avenger.
And you know what too?
Story.
You know what too, Gemma, is like they're really pushing. I mean, Chris Evans announced that he's done after Avengers 4. So I think it's possible that he dies in this movie, and then we only get, because I think. Here's my tinfoil theory. We're going to get into some predictions here. I think that if Thanos does wipe out half the universe and they go back in time, they're going to be able to erase some of what he did, not all. And I think we're going to get to the point where they're able to erase everything but Captain America's death. And I think it's going to suck, because I think other people will die, but Captain America is going to be the big one.
There has to be some kind of, it will be a self-sacrifice kind of moment, won't it? Whoever,
I think Tony or Cap has to live without each other, right? Because like Civil War in the comics, Captain America dies. So and in the comics, Thanos kills Captain America. So this could be a plausible theory, and I could just see Cap saying, "I can do this all day," and we've never seen anyone look that pissed. Like he could kill Bucky, he could kill a Black Widow, he could have killed like almost everyone, and only Doctor Strange is around or something like that. Like he looks like, to be able to hold back Thanos with the Power Stone like that, that's insane. So that's why that theory of the Soul Stone is pretty awesome with Captain America.
I'm going to pick up on the point that G's name taken has pulled up, because this was on my mind, and you've read my mind, G's, or I choose violins, which is my favorite of your names. She says Chris Evans would not be the first actor to lie about stuff like this to mislead people. And yeah, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, isn't there? This guy's contract's running out, and this guy said he's hanging up his shield, and again, we need to be really careful. They're not stupid. They know what information they are and are not feeding us with at this point. They know how desperate we are for the information and how much we latch onto them for theories. I do think that there has to be a major death, and I'm not talking about like the B team Avengers. I'm talking about the original 6, and I think, yeah, Cap and Iron Man are very much in the danger zone right now. There is another theory that to get your hands on the Soul Stone, you have to kill a loved one.
Oh, Gamora or Nebula, because Nebula kills him in the comics, right?
Well, in one of the
one of the 15 different deaths,
but this is like a Nissa moment, isn't it? And yeah, so like you said, Thanos has said it, and they've teased it in the MCU that Gamora is his favorite daughter, and then we see in the trailers we're going to have a little bit of a flashback, a bit of him taking Gamora because she's his adopted daughter. So yeah, there's a lot of theories out there, but I think what we do know is that with these stones, the MCU is setting us up quite literally for the most powerful, arguably, supervillain in any superhero movie we have ever seen.
They said he's
Period.
10 times worse than Darth Vader.
Yeah, I can imagine. I have another.
Let that sink in. Let that sink in, everyone. 10 times worse than
I do
Darth
have
Vader.
Final mini prediction before I'm pretty much run out of stuff to say.
Hawkeye isn't dead, by the way. He was actually in. If you look hard enough, he's in some promotional shots. His hair is cut differently, and I think he's going to be taking on the persona of Ronin. If you know who that is, Hawkeye is going to be Ronin.
That's exciting. You know, in the trailer, at one point, that we see the Hulkbuster armor come piling in. I predict that is not Tony Stark. I predict that the person wearing the Hulkbuster armor is the Hulk. I'm calling it.
Why?
I'm calling it because he's going to need it.
I think that's complete fake news. Everyone put the fake news emojis in the chat right now. I want to see the fake news emojis.
I'm calling it. That is the Hulk. That is the Hulk in that armor. You mark my words.
No. Everyone, where's the fake news emoji? I gotta find it. No.
Herb says Rocket Raccoon is the one using the Hulkbuster. That would be so epic. I definitely don't think it's Tony Stark in there.
Is everyone trying to trigger me in chat by saying I agree with Gemma? Yes. You know what's oh. Thanks, Preston. Thanks for having my back on this one. Oh my God. Hulk inside Hulkbuster armor is just like a no-no.
Bruce Banner doesn't want to lose control, but he wants to fight, so he wears the Hulkbuster, but he still transforms into the Hulk anyway.
The Hulk needs to lose control. Thanos is like the main villain. They need the Hulk in green form. That's
Oh, I'm afraid that you got served on that one, Kyle.
I'm about to turn into the Hulk.
It's Banner. You're wrong, Kyle. Kyle's about to Hulk out.
Oh, you guys are such bullshit. Oh my God. I can't believe you guys have turned your backs on me with this fake news, man. So we're getting pretty we were gonna try to keep this around an hour, but Gemma, let's open up some questions for about 10 minutes and then we'll
I'm good for that. Yeah.
Wesley, thank you. Put the barf emojis down in there. Kyle, Scott, you're wrong. All right. You're wrong.
Oh dear. Actually, I really want it to be Rocket now. Now Wesley Mons has suggested.
Actually, another prediction I'm going to make is I'm releasing this video on Monday. George in the chat wrote this amazing script. He has this amazing theory for Thor's new weapon called Stormbreaker, and I think that Rocket Raccoon actually might die in this movie.
No.
And I think part of the reason why is that Thor is going to become his mentor, and I think Groot is going to make. I think when Thor is getting like that, I think Rocket will be in the final battle, but he's going to get Stormbreaker, which is an axe/hammer, and I think that Groot's going to make the handle for that, and I think that Rocket might die in this movie. I don't know if he'll make it to Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
One of my favorite hookups will be Tony Stark and Rocket, because can you imagine those two in the same room? That their personalities would clash so much. It would be incredible to see those two together. But that if they could kind of get past their own egos, the conversations they could have about tech is amazing. You know,
I'm showing everybody my shirt right now. I have to. I am a Groot. Little baby Groot. Me and George. Oh, sorry, I muted myself. Me and George got these amazing shirts at Dragon Con, and what they do is they have a part of the side of the shirt. Actually, it has Groot and it says it both the same upwards and downwards. But I got another shirt with Wolverine, and it says adamantium one way and Wolverine another way. And there's one with Magneto. It says a different word with Magneto. Like it's tattoo art, but it says one, and it looks the exact same, but it isn't. You know what I mean?
So clever.
You know what I'll do is for the next Marvel video we do, I'll put the link to that website because they have the best t-shirts. George bought 10 t-shirts and I bought like 4. It was insane. They were so cool. But yeah, so one way it looks like you're looking at a word, but when you flip it, it actually is another word. So crazy.
House Groot, house words. I am Groot. And that was one of the best lines in Guardians 2, wasn't it? What did he say? He said, "Welcome to the freaking Guardians of the Galaxy." Only he didn't say frickin'.
Actually, let's talk about our favorite moments from the trailer, because there's a lot there. Well, my favorite moment from the second trailer is when Star-Lord and Tony are talking. So about your plan, yeah, that's a really great plan, except your plan sucks. I love that.
Yes. My favorite moment from the trailer, and I think a lot of people will agree, it's the moment Cap grabs that gauntlet and the look on his, the determination, and then you get that brief second where Thanos looks almost surprised, maybe not worried, but that the grit and just that no way kind of, I gasped audibly when I saw that part. There's another part where Cap he's dodged the shield, hasn't he? Not the shield. What am I talking about?
The spear. He grabs Proxima's spear, which is crazy because she's super powerful.
It is. Proxima Midnight's lance. It's made from like a star and a sun or a planet. Or it's ridiculous that it's got unavoidable toxic light beams. So to be dodging that is huge.
And he's gonna mess her up.
Yes,
he's gonna mess her.
So what the hell is going on with Cap in this trailer? Because he's in this trailer alone, he's done 2 things which, according to what we understand, are impossible, right? So
you know what's really crazy is I saw a tinfoil theory that it's actually Loki. And I don't think I believe that, because I think that would be a crazy misdirect, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
like it can't be Loki, right?
Idea. I mean, haven't we done that a lot now?
But then that kind of sets up what we think might happen near the end of Avengers 4, and that's the Secret War plotline with the Skrulls. So is there actually an Avenger that isn't an Avenger? Because the Skrulls, they look kind of like Thanos, but they're not. And there are these aliens that can shapeshift, and they take on the forms of the Avengers. And it's really nuts. So we don't know who is who, and people are fighting and stuff, and they can't tell. It's really nuts.
There is something seriously questionable going on with things that we're seeing Cap do in that trailer. There's no way to get around that. I mean, I cannot see that the MCU will dumb down Proxima Midnight or Thanos, for that matter, just to raise Cap's character. That there has to be more to it than that. They have said very clearly that they are taking huge chunks of inspiration from the comics. They're big comic geeks themselves. They know the Infinity War and the Infinity Gauntlet storylines.
This is like Jon Snow battling the Night King in Game of Thrones. This is like the big event that you're gonna get.
Yes, but just that moment, and I'm like, well, Thanos can't have been punching, because if he was punching and I'm trying to sort of logically figure out how this is even possible. But yeah, I wouldn't discount the possibility that some of the stones in that gauntlet that Cap is holding at that moment have been CGI'd out for the purposes of that trailer.
And that would make it even more crazy if he has 5 of them, because
exactly
that'd be nuts.
He
Ah,
didn't dodge it, he caught it. Yes, he did. You're right. Yeah. He might have ingested the herb that creates Black Panthers, and the power is added to his super soldier. Yeah, and he's it's an upgrade. It's Captain 2.0 because he is in Wakanda. Yeah, there's
how
some
much
things
of that
going
herb do they
on.
have though? Because remember, they gave the last of it to Black Panther.
I'm sure they've got a secret stash somewhere.
I really hope so. Um,
Um,
Chat,
we've
can you give us all of your best predictions before we go today? This was an absolute blast, by the way. Me and
yeah,
Gemma are still going to give our individual prediction. We're going to record an individual. We're going to try hard next week. We've been super busy. Like I said, Con of Thrones is like in what, like 44, 43 days for us. For me, Gemma comes a day later than me. So we're really trying to get all of that organized, and that's kind of been a pain in the ass. Getting
yeah,
all
but lay on your predictions in the chat right now. What do you regarding any of it, and we'll read out a few of them, because I'm reading some of these now and they're already great. So let us know what you think. Pick a character. Where do you think they're going to go with that one?
Oh my God, Carol! For not feeling well, you're hilarious. Cap smoked a heart-shaped herbs clove cigarette. You're hilarious. Seriously, wow.
Picture this: Thor dies, but he turns into a skull, setting up secret invasion for not Avengers 4, but Avengers 5. Excellent.
That's really interesting. I think. I mean, it seems like they're going to go with the female Thor after the original Thor. I know a lot of people don't like that, but that's going to be interesting. Obviously, they got to get Adam Warlock in there. That's another character. Captain Marvel is going to be huge. All these movies are going to basically all these superheroes are basically going to get trilogies. You might think, right? Like the 3-act structure we talked about in the hero's journey yesterday in our podcast about
Yeah.
Arya.
Wesley Mons says Loki's going to die. I agree. Scott McCloy says that I see the Scarlet Witch being the key. Possibly, we've discussed this actually, haven't we, Kyle? Privately, Scarlet Witch. Obviously, she's got that relationship with Vision. So something pretty bad happening to Vision could be the trigger that she needs. Papa Tab says there's too many superheroes to keep track of. It's the same in Game of Thrones, isn't there? Too many characters.
They're also potentially working on phase 4, introducing the Celestials. We know they try to do a certain amount of movies per year, but they can certainly increase that if they want to. I mean, now that they have the power of Disney and all of that, I think it's also possible that we might see some of these characters. My phone's going off. Oops. Some of these characters get TV shows. There was a great article the other day that I read that Doctor Strange would make a great TV show, and I agree with that. So possibly, lending and kind of competing with some of these shows like Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead's of the world and those kinds of shows. We know we got Marvel has a Netflix agreement, but still, that's going to be moving towards the Disney streaming service next year, which is going to be really interesting.
Which means we might finally get Wolverine at some point, maybe.
And that's another thing too. Remember, they acquired all of the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe except for like Venom and a few others that Sony still has. Fantastic Four is back. The X-Men is back. So it's possible that Hugh Jackman said he's had his final appearance, but I don't think he would turn down a cameo in the Avengers. I don't think he would do that. I think he would definitely come back for the Avengers.
Well, it's incredible what they can do with CGI now, isn't it? Let's face it.
But yeah, I mean, I think overall, I think if you guys can go back and watch some of the movies, I went and watched back all of them. I'm watching, and that's the great thing about these movies. They're so good that you can go watch them multiple times. Like all of them are just Marvel's really nailed most of their castings ever since they rebooted with Iron Man #1, and of course the Avengers 1 was probably the best movie after Iron Man 1 and Captain America's Winter Soldier. Those are 3 or 4 best in my opinion. But Black Panther was really good too, and they keep on just upping the ante. Like I said, these castings are just Chadwick Boseman was amazing. Brie Larson's a great actress for Captain Marvel. She's the perfect kind of funny, sarcastic kind of person that you would that confident Captain Marvel that you're going to want. So it's going to be really interesting kind of see where they go with the future of Marvel. But I think we can both say that we're pretty excited, Gemma.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have to sign off soon, though, because it's Saturday night and we're getting a takeaway and a bottle of wine. And I'm going to chill out because I've been working very hard all week. And I think I'm going to do Iron Man 3 tonight.
I just watched that one a couple days ago. I watched Avengers this morning before we came on.
Oh, did I? Avengers Assemble.
You know what's really funny is like last week, me and Gemma were talking. She's like, "I'm watching Guardians of the Galaxy," and then I sent her a snap, and it said I was like literally 5 minutes before what she was at.
That's incredible. I know we keep watching the exact. Yesterday, I watched the first Avenger, Captain America. The day before that, I watched Civil War. The day before that, I watched 2. So I'm watching them in a bizarre order. Guardians of the Galaxy 1 I watched a few days ago as well. And I think everybody in the chat saying the same thing. I think we're all kind of having a re-marathon of all the Marvel movies in prep for Infinity Wars. I've got my tickets all booked for opening night, so that's super exciting. But yeah, it's wine and takeout time for me now, so I'm going to sign off.
You know what's really funny, Gemma, is I see some amazing comparisons for Game of Thrones characters.
Yes, I know.
We should do a fun live stream and compare Game of Thrones characters to the Marvel counterparts.
I am well up for that. Yeah, definitely. We could do that.
All right. But that's going to do it for us today, everyone. Thank you so much. Especially thank you to Carol for that $50 donation. That was amazing. Unexpected, but, you know, plow on. Of course, we're plowing on. Tomorrow, I'm going to be releasing a video. It's going to be around 11 a.m. for you. It's going to be a Game of Thrones Season 8 video. And then I'm actually finishing my 4 days of streaming, like I promised tomorrow, with a 2-hour plus live stream. And I'm going to make a prediction for every main Game of Thrones character tomorrow. It's just going to be me, but we're going to hang out and try to have some fun. And Gemma, what's on the next docket for you?
I've got a couple of theories coming up. I released one earlier on today. I've got another one ready for tomorrow. And I've almost finished the first chapter in A Clash of Kings, so expect that soon. Patreons of mine have seen the first third of that because I've given them a little teaser of what's coming up next. But what's on the agenda right now is red wine.
That's really funny. All right, everyone. If you do want to follow me and Gemma, I put the links to both of our Twitters in the description of this video and Gemma's Facebook and my Facebook, so you can reach out to us. And if you have a theory about Marvel's Avengers Infinity War, or you want to chat Marvel, don't be afraid to say hello. We love chatting about this. Of course, if you do want to support the channels and you do want to help us get to Con of Thrones, the GoFundMe's for the Con of Thrones are in the description of this video. And of course, we both do bonus content on Patreon. I've been doing actually a little bit of extra Marvel content along my Game of Thrones on Patreon. If you can't, we really appreciate the support. If you could like this video, retweet it, leave a comment, or just come hang out with us in the next one. So thanks everyone for watching again today, and we'll see you all in the next video. Hype and love. Oh, you want to sign off? Okay, here we go. Gemma, go ahead.
Crikey, goodness me, we're going to plow on into some red wine. Yes, some Dornish red. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining us.